Right, okay. Second piece of news is as regards Brock Lesnar. Now, this isn't just about Brock Lesnar. There's a bit of talk about Tony Khan here. There's a bit of talk about Adam Cole. So let's go into this, shall we? Let's talk about the beast incarnate, Brock Lesnar. Now, Tony Khan is already making allusions, as is Dave Meltzer, to having an even bigger name than CM Punk in the pipeline, or at least a name as big as. How that's possible is naturally a really odd question, but there are names available right now who are unquestionably bigger names. We can afford to eliminate names such as John Cena and The Rock. They're not just locked into WWE at the moment, but they're of a generation that are WWE for life. That genuinely limits us to two real options. One of them is Adam Cole, someone who is currently technically working without a contract, but even that contract will be ending this weekend. There's nothing saying that AEW can't pick him up. Thus far, there has been no suggestion that Cole has signed the 7-figure contract that he has been offered by the WWE. That said, there is plenty of suggestion that Adam Cole will be on Raw almost instantly after SummerSlam. That kind of only leaves one big name: Brock Lesnar. Honestly, I don't see this one happening either, but let's talk about Brock Lesnar for a moment. Brock Lesnar has not signed a new deal with the WWE, but there is a deal that's been offered to him. Brock Lesnar has also had unofficial conversations with AEW where numbers were passed around, so there is definitely some interest from the AEW side. There are plans in place for Brock Lesnar for a post-SummerSlam return in mid-September. This opens a lot of exciting possibilities. The most obvious ones are the top-level choices, so let's talk about them. Imagine for a moment this Brock versus this Roman. With Lesnar expected back at some point between SummerSlam and the draft, a feud with Roman is a genuine possibility. This will be the first time that the two have squared off without Roman being viewed as the underdog. In fact, Roman would be the guy on top looking down for the first time ever. Roman and Finn Balor seem to have something lined up for right after SummerSlam though, and this is a feud that could continue for several months. I think we're all quite excited about that one, so I'd happily let that one play out, at least for now. SmackDown also really doesn't need a Brock Lesnar. It doesn't need a Becky Lynch right now either, though that is a possibility. Stay tuned for more on that. Of the possible plans for Brock Lesnar, Bobby Lashley remains the most exciting prospect. With SummerSlam and Goldberg out of the way, Lashley will be waiting for something new and exciting, and Brock presents that. It also opens a very clear route to neither of them having the WWE Championship. Picture this if you will allow me to fantasy book for a moment. Brock Lesnar returns to challenge Bobby Lashley for the WWE Championship in the main event of Extreme Rules. The two men smash 10 bells out of each other, casually destroying each other with a level of brutality that even makes MVP uncomfortable. MVP leaves, or is somehow mauled, probably speared through the ringside barricade or whatever it is. As both men stagger and bleed, Big E arrives with the briefcase, putting both men down with big endings, pinning Bobby Lashley and escaping with the championship. Now that answers everything we've said previously about Brock's concerns. He doesn't want to lose to Lashley. We've reported that here in the past. And this result would mean that they no longer have a physical beef because, let's face it, Brock's story has always been that he's a trophy hunter. He wants gold. Lashley's feud would move on to Big E, where my hope would be that the New Day lie, cheat and steal to keep that championship away from Lashley until around Royal Rumble time, when Big E is finally caught and stopped. Meanwhile for Brock, who cares? Throw him against Cesaro or Damian Priest or something. He doesn't need to be the champion all the time. This of course leaves the one question about who may be the next signing for AEW. It kind of has to be Bray Wyatt. He's the only one left. Hey Jared says Cole said his Twitch isn't going anywhere. Does that mean Vince will give Cole the okay to continue his Twitch, or will WWE just stop that stupid Twitch rule altogether? Essentially, Adam Cole would have a specialist ability to be the only person on the main roster with Twitch, but he could then try and leverage that to other people being called up with Twitch as well. I'm looking specifically at certain people like Dakota Kai, who will be called up soon, who now that Adam Cole has been able to negotiate that, might well be able to negotiate that as well. Eleanor says, do you think Brock could work without Paul Heyman? I do, I just don't necessarily think he would. I think Brock needs Paul Heyman more than Roman does, so I think Brock would be regaining Paul Heyman. But that's just my opinion. Lance says, Brock versus Baron Corbin, where Corbin finally gets his payoff and gets out of debt. Aww. Brock didn't give a shit about his debt. Oh, good times. Unpopular Review says, now that we're on Brock news, any news on Brock Anderson? No news, unfortunately. I've heard nothing about that. Mr. Manone says, but Bray's under a 90-day non-compete. How can he be signed? He can be provisionally signed. A contract can be in place and agreed without it being officially signed until that 90 days is completed. Essentially, CM Punk didn't sign until Tuesday, and yet they've booked the stadium in Chicago. They've been hyping him up for weeks. Something happens where where Tony Khan is just very, very confident that he's got his man.